Kia ora. Today I'm going to share with you a layout created using the new Aurora collection. I'm going to scrapbook this photo of my kids and a fire pit that they created in the backyard to roast some marshmallows on. So I'm choosing to use this collection because it's sort of got that back to nature, outside, nightimey kind of feel. But I'm also going to use some of the mix-in paper packet in here as well, just because they've got some really nice coordinating patterns for the layout that I'm wanting to create. So I'm going to pull in both the here and there stamps as well as the Aurora scrapbooking stamps. And I'm actually going to use one of the Aurora scrapbooking stamps as my title. So I've chosen to go for this plaid type paper, and I'm going to trim it down because I want some of the charcoal cardstock to show through as a bit of a border. So I'm trimming off, I think it was about 1/2 inch off 2 of the sides, so that should give us a 1/4 inch all the way around that you can see of that charcoal cardstock. So I'm actually going to cut out the center of this cardstock to make some good use of it, and so I'm going to cut it from 1.5 inches in all the way around so that I've got enough room to stick the plaid paper in there, the green plaid in there, without the bulk in my page, and also it means I've got the charcoal bits there if I want to back some photos or use them for other things at another time. So you can see how you wouldn't even know from the front there that I've trimmed that part out. Okay, so my photo's going to be in here. I'm actually doing this layout in response to a telephone hop or a page hop type challenge as well, where I got sent a photo of a layout that was done by someone else, and then I am using ideas from that layout to create my own. So kind of scrap lifting, not a direct copy, but using elements of that. So the elements that I pulled in were the triangles, which fitted really nicely with this collection. So I'm just backing the photograph here using the linen cardstock, the pale side of that, and I'm just having a look at the Aurora papers as to which ones I am going to trim up. So I'm going to cut out 6 triangle shapes from the different pieces of pattern paper, the different designs. So that's using both the Aurora scrapbooking or the Aurora paper and sticker collection, as well as the mix-ins that are part of the May and June idea book there. So you can just see I'm just tucking those triangles in and around and pulling them out, and choosing some of the different patterns that I'm going to put on here as part of this page. Probably could have trimmed this part of the video a wee bit. I'm not sure that you need to see me cutting out a whole lot of triangles, but that's okay. I really love these mix-ins. They will team up nicely with both this collection with the Aurora, and they'll also team up nicely with Blue Skies, which is our May special collection, and also the Stitched Together collection as well. So the Aurora scrapbooking stamps and thin cuts, I'm going to use one of these as the title for my layout. So I'm just putting through one of the very original Cuddle Bugs, the shape that I'm going to then stamp on top of. So I've pulled that aside, and I'm going to stamp the title, which reads Adventure Outside. So at the point where this photo was taken, we are in a lockdown in New Zealand, where we've been all asked to stay home due to COVID-19. And so when I'm talking about, often we think of adventures outside being tramping trips or camping outings further away from home, whereas this one's just in our backyard, but we can still have adventures outside in our backyard without having to go too far away from home. And I really love that my kids have used this time to have those adventures in the backyard. There was even a tent set up the night that they had this garden fire pit. Anyway, so here's sort of what the page might look like, and I'm now thinking through. I was going to use this journaling card from the Aurora collection of the Picture My Life cards. However, I decide I'm going to use one of the sticker sheets from it. because it's got that nice sort of sparkly bit. Anyway, I'm going to stitch around the edges of all of these wee triangles. So I'm just going through, piercing a little hole. I'm going to use the sapphire thread for these. So I'm just going to go around and do it. Just adds a bit of texture. I think it adds that homely connection, because even though we're talking about an adventure outside, we're having that adventure at home. So I've stitched around all of those triangles. I've now decided that I am going to stitch another frame on the inside of the plaid paper, and I am sort of thinking through the sizing. So I'm going to trim down that centre piece that I've cut out, and I'm going to use this as a guide to pierce some holes around on this green cards on the plaid paper, so that I'm going to use one of our older threads that we came out with, and it had a bit of a gold fleck through it, so I think it came out at around Christmas time. But before I do that, I want to sort of change the background up a bit, and I toy with the idea of splattering some of the water paints, but I decide no, I'm just going to use the gold shimmer brush. So I'm just squeezing a bit of it out there so there's an excess, and then I'm going to tap it on my finger to splatter this all over the paper. And although you don't see it when you necessarily look directly at the layout from in these photos, you do actually notice just those wee bits of shimmer and sparkle when you look at it in real life. So now I'm going to now I'm going to pierce the little holes all the way around the edge here, around the edge of this grey bit, and I will then stitch in there. So I'm just going to use that as a guide, stitching along. Now when I'm doing these holes, because I'm going to do it so that you can see the stitch, it's not continuous, you have to do it in groups of 2, otherwise you're going to get to the end and you're going to have a double up piece, which doesn't look quite right. Anyway, just getting that needle threaded. My eyes are getting to the point where I just about need to take my glasses off to thread things like needles, but that's okay. So I'm going to just trim through here, trim around, hold the thread, and then I'm going to pop that back under to hold the end piece in. So you can see I've stitched that border around now, and I'm just arranging the pieces into a sort of a pleasing arrangement. I sort of felt that they needed the darker colour of that blue down the bottom teamed up with the darker colour at the top. It just somehow added a bit more balance when I was looking at the page. So just playing around till I'm happy with those, and I decided I wanted to back the photo, so I pulled out another piece of the mix-in paper, and I'm just going to back the photo using that and looking around to see what other pieces might have worked as well. I didn't want to use the same as I'd used for the triangles, just because they were a bit bolder than what I was wanting to do here. So I'm just going to go around and mess up the edges of the pieces that I have stuck down behind the photo. Just because, again, it's that homely outsideness, it just needs those rough edges on there. So now I am just putting on the title, which is the Adventure Outside stamp and thin cut that I've used, and I've used the foam tape because I wanted this just to pop off the page a little bit more than some of the other elements. And now I'm also going around the edges of the plaid paper, roughing up those pieces as well. Just again, that homely soft effect. I think you get that more with when you rough things up than the clean sharp lines that would otherwise be there. So it was just a matter of peeling these back and sort of folding it around and not being too particular, but trying not to do big rips as such. Luckily I don't have fingernails for them to go under or get hurt, but that's okay. So now I'm going to use the here and there stamps, which are a series of little arrows. This also comes with a thin cut, but I was too impatient when the consultants had access to these products and wanted them even without, figuring I can fussy cut around the arrows because they're a nice simple shape if I need to. So I'm just going to choose 3 of these. So I've chosen one that says best ever, and I am also going to pull out one that says awesome, and another one which says love this, and I'm using the Espresso stamp pad. The colour, while it's not inherently in this collection, I think it was softer than the likes of the black or the charcoal, but it still gives that that definite look to it. So on that triangle I'm putting a wee stamp that just says love this, and using the stamp Shammy that you possibly couldn't see there just to clean off my the stamps. So I'm going to use, having a look here at the stickers, and I'm going to use some of the stars and some of the little triangles just to add to that, as well as using the journaling sticker that's on here. You can sort of see it in the film here, the green that's on here has a little bit of a shine and a little bit of a sheen to it. So using that and sticking that onto my page, tucking it just down the bottom there, and then pulling off those little triangle pieces. There's two of them, so I put one up the top, up near the right there, and one down the bottom left, and then adding in the 5 little stars that are there, and they're sort of got a I guess a mauve or a possibly eggplant kind of colour, or maybe it's sangria in there. So I pop those stars in place, and now I am going to have a look at these gorgeous the gorgeous shapes that are here. These are the Aurora acrylic shapes, and they're really nice deep emeraldy kind of blue, teal almost, a deep blue that have a really nice look to them. And so they sort of teed up with the grass that you can see in the background of my photograph, and sort of the light that's in there. But I really liked the idea of having sort of one of these on each of the triangles, so I've sort of pulled through, choosing the ones that suit. So there's a few stars, a heart, sort of a heart geolocation, another triangle, and a wee bit of a camera. Just the idea of capturing those memories. And I'm also going to put some gold embellishing thread in there, so I've just twisted this around my fingers, created a space for it. You'll see here how I pull that out. I don't want them all the same length, so I've sort of done some around 2 fingers and some around just 1 before I tuck them on to where I put that tape underneath there, so the gold is just sort of peeking out. And I've used the gold, and I'm going to put some of the gold gems on as well, because of the sort of the warmth and the colour and the fire, just to bring that element from my photograph onto the page. So the glitter gems, I again just randomly spreading them around. They kind of look like stars in a night sky in a way, which is quite cool. And so in the end, created a layout for the page hop that has a bit of Aurora flavour and a bit of my style teamed up in there too.